As podcast, your host Alberto Contreras. Today's new episode is Keeping It Green with our special guest,
Johnny Torino.
Thank you for being on the show today, Johnny. We'll get right into it. I was like, before this little background, we've known each other for a long time since we were kids, right?
Yeah, it's been a while.
We grew up, playing soccer on in some apartments. And just hanging out with a bunch of our friends, just that apartment hangout, because I didn't live there, we would go there because we had so many of our friends, and we would just kick it. And so, we've known each other since we were kids, basically.
Since we were really little kids, we go way back.
Go way back. So going right into it is, what is it that you do for an occupation, Johnny?
So pretty much what I do, I am in the green industry. I am a owner and operator of Johnny's Lawn Care and Landscaping. Pretty much taking care of people's properties with mowing and doing all sorts of stuff for landscaping for property and everything like that.
So just making people's front yards, backyards look beautiful, right?
Pretty much.
Okay. When did you start, and when did you start this field of work, and when was it that you decided that you wanted to do this?
So I started back doing landscaping back in 2017. Pretty much just got into it, just like many other landscapers do. Pretty much just grabbing a mower and helping out neighbors in the neighborhood. And pretty much, my story goes kind of deep where back then, just families didn't have, all the money and everything like that. And so for me to bring in some money and help my mom back then, just pretty much going door to door and cutting people's lawns and trying to make an extra couple bucks.
Right. What skills and certifications did you have to acquire to get into this field of work, right? Because now you have a company. Was it something that you needed to get licensing or any of that?
So pretty much when I started in 2017, I just did what everybody else did. Pretty much, kind of, I didn't have no licensing, no anything like that. I wasn't doing any as in my industry, a lot of people do pesticide work, which you need licensing,
right? And
any huge landscaping, like doing concrete pavers, anything that's more like tearing up the yards and stuff, you're needing a license to do that.
License / maybe permits where somebody has to pull that.
Because if you're working at who knows, like a $500,000 to $1 million house, you definitely need to have some sort of insurance and permits to do those type of things. And so, pretty much as of now, where I am scaled at in my business, I do have licensing and able to get permits to do some sorts of stuff like that in my landscaping field. So pretty much, I also do pesticide treatments, which is taking care of pests that are in the yards for kids and pets that are out there playing in the grass.
Right.
Such as spiders, ants, stuff like that. I do that, but you have to have a herbicide and pesticide licensing that in the state of Nashville, you have to require.
And so you can educate us a little bit more on that. It's just on a general purpose of it. Is it because of the danger that these pesticides have, right? That could hurt people or animals or something like that, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much correct. You're using chemicals that maybe, in the state of California, everything has cancer or could produce cancer. So these chemicals are sometimes, they can produce side effects and stuff like that. And a lot of my clients, they try to prefer something more natural, which that's what I usually do. But still, in the state of Nashville and Tennessee, you have to have a license.
Okay.
And so as for myself, I do a lot of natural chemicals and stuff, which don't harm no animals, no kids. And they do take care of pesticides or also weeds in yards.
Okay.
So a lot of people have lots of weeds and dandelions, and that makes your yard pretty much look ugly.
Yeah.
And that's my part of the job where I have to just make just pure, clean green grass.
Perfect. If any, did you need to go to school for any of this, and to get your first job, or did you have to go study or anything when you got the licensing or before you got the licensing that you?
So pretty much with licensing, getting for the pesticide and all that, I did have to take a test through the state, and pretty much it's just like a multi-question type of thing where you have to go and answer and know your knowledge of what amount and how much and where you have to do these type of things. So pretty much getting that through the state, I had to go down to downtown, go ahead and fill out a questionnaire, and pretty much that same day got my license.
But you studied prior to get ready for the test,
course.
Right? Would you say if somebody wants to do it, how long would you have to study? How long did you study to prepare yourself for this test?
So in the beginning, I mean, I've been in industry for about 8 years. Started doing this about 3 years ago. So once I started getting into doing those type of things where you need a certification, it took about 3 to 4 months just to study, get more knowledge, and do a lot of investigating of like, what are we able to do? Am I able to spray
Right.
and stuff like that? And so it was about a 3 to 4 month time frame of pretty much just studying, getting the knowledge to do all those type of things. So it's something really quick where you don't have to deal with like
Right.
years and years of studying and all that. It's super simple. I mean, the cost of also taking it and paying for it, I mean, it's not even expensive either.
So it's worth.
It's
wow.
worth.
Right. And the reason I say this is because, again, we all have different paths that we want to choose, and so some, we're taught that you gotta go, in high school, get a degree to do this. But again, there's all these other fields that pay well that, can get you outside of that whole 9 to 5 or minimum wage looking job. And so some of us don't know that these opportunities exist, right? And so something as simple, and I say that because people cut their yards every day, right? You see some people don't pay, some people cut their own yard, but it goes more detailed, more science, which is mulching, weeding, edging, just taking care of it. There's so much more tapped potential versus something that is in our everyday lives, right? That we think that it's that doesn't pay, or how do I get about getting into this, right?
Yeah, that's
so.
correct.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
When you started in this field of work, what were you getting paid versus how has it progressed throughout the years? Like, it doesn't necessarily need to be like a per hour if you'd like to share that, but also income wise, have you seen it progress gradually, or assuming when you start out, you didn't have your own company, you're working for someone else, and how has that grown throughout the years?
So pretty much when I started back in 2017, I mean, I just had a small push mower that probably cost about $300, and thankfully to my mom, she was able to help me out to get that opportunity to get started. And the funniest thing is I was mowing my neighbors. I used to live at my grandma's house and pretty much mowing neighbors door to door.
Right.
And pretty much I was asking everybody to mow everybody's yard for maybe like $10, $15, $20. But I was 16, 17 at that age.
Right.
I mean, $20 for like an hour. I mean, that's pretty good.
That's $20 an hour, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
There's a lot of people
mowing
that
about 5 yards a day. I mean, $100 a day. I mean, that was pretty cool.
And that's also like, I guess, to some degree, we'll say that that's before taxes or cash free, right?
Before taxes, paying for insurance and all that stuff. That was just, an extra money that was going in my pockets because I was still working a 9 to 5 during those times. I mean, I've worked several types of jobs. I mean, I've worked at construction, hard labor jobs prior to that as well. At that age, I mean, since, I do come from a single mother household, pretty much trying to help her between both of us, bringing home income and stuff like that, paying the bills. I mean, it was pretty tough at the beginning.
Right.
And doing my 9 to 5 and also doing those mowings at $15, $20, each mow. I mean, brought a little extra income to help us out, pay for rent, bills, and even put food on our table. From back then, I mean, $20 was pretty great, but scaling now about 7 to 8 years later, I mean, making what, $50 to $100 an hour.
Wow.
That's how much I've grossed since then.
Wow, that's amazing. So, I guess more in a little bit more detail. What do you think you're averaging out a year? Like it doesn't have to necessarily be an exact dollar. It could be figure amount, like 5 figures, 6 figures, right? 7 figures. Some of us, I've had some people on here who are blessed enough to be there, and I'm like, we all want to strive to even go further than that, right?
Yeah, and it's crazy to think about that because people just think you're just mowing grass.
Right.
It's nothing too crazy, nothing, skilled labor. I mean, you do have to have some skills to know what you're doing, but back then, let's say 3 years ago, prior to now, let's say 2002, 2001, or 2021, I mean, I was making maybe just like a regular 9 to 5, a little bit more than a 9 to 5 once I started doing a little bit more. I mean, I was around the 70,000.
Okay.
And then gradually I've been going up and up each year, and it was from 50 to 70, 90 to pretty much now I'm almost up to $250,000.
Wow. That's amazing.
And hopefully this year I could project at least about 350,000.
There you
hopefully.
go. Yeah.
Let's hope.
Hey, let's hope, man. Hey, and the next year we go up more, right? We're always challenging ourselves to do more, and some people might think, oh, And maybe it is that's gross money, right? But if in this world, you have to self-invest, which is what has made you continue to go up, which is you purchase the newer vehicles or more vehicles to get guys, get machinery, certain things that make your life easier, and you can start doing like, let's say, more hardscape work that pays even more, right? So gradually the income will continue to, I say income goes up if we invest.
And you invest.
Right?
And that's correct, because, I mean, pretty much this year I've been able to, since the couple of years, I mean, I was dealing with a old beat up truck. I barely had a mower that barely worked. I mean, I just kept pushing. That old beat up truck eventually blew out an engine 2 years ago. Wow. And during that time, I mean, it was during the peak season of landscaping where I constantly had to mow. Pretty much just had to go rent a U-Haul for a couple months.
Wow.
And I mean, just to have steady income, since I was still going full time at that point, didn't have a 9 to 5 no more. Pretty much had to rent a U-Haul truck, and just pretty much I was throwing a couple $100, but that couple $100 just kept me pushing and going and going and having a steady income.
So you were able to have enough now that I see you have a nice truck.
Yeah.
And and again, it's a beautiful thing because you said you had a car that blew out, and so I'm assuming it was older, and you're able to get these things because you work hard, but two, it's a tax advantage, right? In the sense of either you self-invest in yourself, which will help you easier and make more money, which then you'll pay more taxes, right? I feel like that's the way that the tax system works. The tax government wants you to self-invest in yourself, which means you'll improve more, which means you'll make more money, which means that they'll get more money eventually, right? Yeah, eventually. And so in the meantime, we get to enjoy these beautiful things. So, we're not complaining, right?
We're not complaining. I mean, it's been a nice journey. I mean, I've struggled a lot. Like I told you, the truck blew out, and I almost lost it, and to the point where I wanted to give up. I mean, it was something hard, and definitely didn't want to go back to 9 to 5. I had a family that was behind me that I had to take care of. I had to keep bringing income just to pay the bills and stuff, because if not, I wasn't going to be able to have anything that I needed just to live.
And in all honesty, so just asking from a personal perspective, did you think you'd be where you are today this quick? The reason I ask that is because some people, you've been trying and you've been working for so many years, but just sometimes it's overnight where things click and you just see yourself, like your life changed like that. Yeah. Did it come to a surprise to you, or did you see yourself like, Johnny, like, dang, I'm here, and I planned on being here, let's say 2 years more, or opposite to that too?
It wasn't something that came fast. I know. I mean, from this journey it's been 8 years. The last 3 years have been a snap. I'll tell you that. I mean, 3 years is pretty long, but from that journey of being a self-employed to where I'm at now, I mean, being able to buy equipment, buy everything, and pay it in cash, and do some things are finance and stuff like that. Of course, that's normal. But
to have the power to pay things off cash now, and the reason I asked that, I'm gonna get a little bit more in base with your business is, do you know why that is? Did you have an influx of business, or because again we're only human, right? Which means we can only do so much within our limits. Yeah. Did you get employees? Did you network? How were you able to just, I guess, more income equals more jobs, more everything? Yeah. What was maybe that key or tap in that you felt that you made a huge step?
So pretty much in this industry, I mean, it's seasonal. So I'll tell you that. Usually from the time frame of March to maybe November, that's your busy season. Sometimes in the summer, things start to slow down because, it gets extremely hot. You're not really mowing. A lot of people don't want to be outside. So, and then in the winter, here in Tennessee, we really don't get snow. Right. So there's not much to do snow plowing or mowing grass. So we are a seasonal type of industry. So usually this time frame from March, April, May, June is my peak season. Right. So usually during those times, I mean, monthly I could bring up to almost 30 grand. Wow. And 30 grand. And that's by, having better equipment. I do hire some employees here and there to work with me seasonally. Right. And that's such a huge blessing, and that helps me a lot.
Okay. Because I guess you having peak seasons means, is this something that you've learned throughout the years that maybe during peak season you have to work way more hours than you've ever wanted to. Why? Because you know that those hours aren't going to reflect the same in winter or in summer. And maybe that's how, I mean, is there something in your formula that you saw that you were like, you changed it up in that way? Of like tax season, right? Like the people who do taxes, right?
Yeah.
Well, tax season is booming from January to April.
Yeah.
So the way I see it is that's when they have to work. So if they have to work 7 days a week for those 4 months, then they don't want to work for the rest of the year, then cool. But because again, it's a peak season, right? They can still have like extension / advisory / audits, any of that stuff. But during their peak time, you have to do crazy of extra things or all those extra things because you have to take advantage of when the time is there, right?
Yeah, and that's pretty much like you said. I mean, the peak season, you just gotta take advantage of it. I mean, in this industry, pretty much myself, I don't work like a regular time frame. It's not a 9 to 5. You know, work 8 hours a day, 4 or 5 days a week. This is pretty much a 7 days a week type of thing. And that's what you're working.
The audience doesn't know that when you're making money and you're an entrepreneur, life gets harder, but it's worth it because there's more reward on it.
It is.
And in the way that, you know, you said you grew up with a single mom, you would never give this up if it means your mom lives a better life.
It's true. And I mean, it's for everybody, even yourself, you know, let's say 10 years down the road, or myself, my kids, you know, they're going to be fortunate enough.
Right.
You know, myself at this point, I mean, I didn't have the best things, and I appreciate everything that I got.
Right.
But you look 10 years later in the future, and all those long nights, long hours, working 7 days a week, I mean, it's going to pay off.
It's going to pay
It's going to pay off.
And you'd rather work hard now when you're in your 20s than have to work when you're in your 60s because you didn't think about retirement. You didn't think about saving. And so right now, when we have the energy, we can do the hours. And again, the day we have kids is then you want to have more freedom to spend more time with them. So right now that we don't, let's take advantage, stockpile, right? Do things right. And why? So the journey, what lies ahead is easier, hopefully, right? Because we don't know the future. We don't know what it entails. So, but yeah, no, that's really cool, man. And it's really, really nice how much you've grown over the years, especially like that's a big number. Like,
it's surprising.
I didn't, because you know you don't know a lot from, you know, I'm construction management, so it's details as far as I know a little bit of everything, and that's really nice numbers, man.
And I'm gonna tell you that, I mean, this is mostly, like, I do tell you, I do hire some employees here and there, but they're not working 40 hours a week. Oh, wow. They might work 2-3 times in a week, and you know, I give them paychecks and stuff, but most of that is just all from me.
Wow.
Self-employed.
Yeah. Wow, that's awesome, man.
I'm a one-man show, and I mean, when jobs are, you know, out of my reach and I'm not able to do all this by myself, and especially during the peak season when there's a lot of work being thrown at you, you have to hire guys.
Right.
Yeah.
Because again, it's the reward of wanting to keep everything for yourself is you actually lose, because if you can get 3-4 more workers and you make money on top of them, plus Johnny makes money. Yeah. Well, then Johnny makes money plus every other worker you have. So, I mean, again, with numbers comes strength, right? Yeah. No one, you've never heard in history, no army, no dynasty conquered with one man, right? One man. He had a whole army.
You had a whole army behind you, and that's how you succeed.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And what do you see yourself, you know, changing, if any, to get to the next level that you want in this industry or for yourself in the next few years?
For myself, you know, definitely hire more employees, have somebody full-time help me out, buy more equipment, and especially, like I said, I'm mostly by myself, so I don't really have a time frame, no schedule, working about 7 days a week. I mean, definitely once I get the employment, have somebody working for me where I have to be less in the field. Right. So looking a little bit more in the future, hopefully I could be behind the scenes and usually bring in more income and more work for my employees. Right. And, you know, both ways, we both make money and stuff like that, but definitely be able to have somebody to help me.
So shifting more from the on the field scenario to more of managerial versus you're still on the field, but you're out there finding opportunities for you and your team. Yeah. Right.
And trust me, opportunities for me, I mean, they just get thrown at me. It's crazy. Right. Like this year alone, I mean, my phone has been nonstop. Calls every single day. Calls in the middle of the night, which is crazy. Text messages just coming my way about doing work and everything, and
Right.
to the point where I'm saying no to jobs.
Wow.
That's how busy I am right now, and I'm thankful for
Right.
it. But like I said, later down the road, once I'm a little bit more financially and more, let's say, more educated in how this industry works, because I'm still learning. Even though 8 years down the road, I mean, you're still
always
constantly learning how to be self-employed, because it's nothing really easy. I'll tell you that.
I've spoken to people in their 50s and 60s, and they're still learning. I went to this show where it was a motivational thing a week or two ago, and there was this gentleman. His name is John Maxwell. He's like a really good, like, New York best-selling author for so many years, and he said he was like, he's in his 70s, and he was saying that they asked him, when's he gonna stop, and he's like, never. He's like, I'll stop the day that the clock runs out, because
Wow.
he's like, and he has sold millions and millions of copies of books, and he said, I'm still learning every day.
Wow.
And so if somebody of that magnitude, like that he's that successful, is still chasing, learning, what excuse do we have when we're in our 20s, right? And like you were saying that it's been a huge blessing how much calls you're getting. It's not by luck. It's crazy how much, like, the universe blesses you when you're doing good.
Yeah.
Because these calls didn't come because you gave bad service, you were overcharging. It's because you're giving quality service, and so somebody's so appreciative of the stuff that you're doing because it's what you stand behind, that they're talking good things about you, because they're like let's say, like, if I'm going with lawn care, I wouldn't go with anyone else but Johnny, and so that you earn that by your service, how you act towards people, how humble you are, how good of a community member you are. And so it's a self-reflection of all the good that you've worked for and you continue to do so. Some people say that, like, oh, this has changed, or I was like, no, you're reaping the rewards of the stuff the seeds that you've been planting. Every contact, everything, it's something that it's beautiful to see it, because with that reason, you should feel like, well, some people take the foot off the gas pedal, but you start seeing that the more seeds you plant, always plant seeds.
It's gonna keep growing.
Yeah, don't care if the seeds grow or not, but as long as that you're out there planting seeds,
eventually
this happens, and it will continue. So, I mean, I think it's a beautiful way to live.
It is.
And income-wise, also, as you grow, what would you want income-wise to be? Where would you want to be income-wise within the next, let's say, 3 to 5 year margin? The reason I say 3 to 5 years is everything in our life since we're kids has been taken up in like a 4-year, right? Like elementary, middle school, high school, college, and then even like right now, after I graduated college, is a 4-year period, and I'm seeing change. So everything in life moves in almost like quarters. And what would you like to see income-wise?
Income-wise, in the next 4 years, hopefully, I wouldn't say really double my income at this point, but I mean 6 figures. I mean, it's pretty good at my age. Like I said, we're almost at the $250,000 profit in grossing. I mean, I wouldn't mind getting and trying to get, that's my goal, at least to 500,000, and hopefully within the next 4 years.
Awesome. And it's good for us to give ourselves those margins of where we want to be at, because it's something that we can work towards, right? Not necessarily, again, like, I mean, what you're at, man, is amazing. Like, most of America is, they're talking about, they just celebrated because they raised the minimum wage up to $20.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're doing things, and you're doing things that a lot of people sadly won't be able to touch, which is a blessing. So I always tell people also sometimes, don't be too focused of also trying to beat yourself too hard, because you got to continue to go up, and we're doing things that a lot of people, I mean, at that you're in like the top 5% of the world.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it's good to also pat yourself on the back and understand that it's always not always if we don't get there, it's like, oh, we didn't succeed or we didn't do anything, because we're doing just fine. Like,
and I mean, when I started everything, I honestly was starting because of the income, just to bring that extra income, to help my family and stuff. But I actually love what I do. It's something interesting that most people think, a lot of people work regular jobs or their dream jobs and they're not even happy. And for what I do appreciate and like the financial aspect of it. But I think the more that you have passion and love for what you do, it rewards you even better. And that's one thing I've seen, because like I told you, we are a seasonal type of industry, and usually we have very slow moments where you're not bringing much to the table.
Right.
And especially in winter, unless you're really out there trying to get jobs and stuff. But in the winter, there's not really much. And you do have like that, a lot of people say in the landscaping field, the depression season where it's dark and gloomy and then you're not really working. Because I've taken those times where it's winter here and I don't work for 3 to 4 months, and I just hang out at home and just try to do some stuff around the house, and also just live off of what I've saved.
Right.
And I've done that for a couple years, and it's not a regret, but there is definitely things that I could have been doing just to bring in extra income.
Right.
Like last year, I pretty much worked in plumbing. I have background in doing framing. I've done drywall and stuff like that, just to kind of keep busy. And I know that's, those fields are very great fields, but if you're not the owner, it's a whole different story.
It's not as rewarding.
Yeah.
But you could say that that's one way to look at it. But doing so well in the industry you're doing, I mean, being able to, if you saw it from a different lens, which let's say from me looking at you through this lens, is you get to take basically 3 to 4 months of vacation, man. Like, some people would die for that, like
people could barely even get a week.
So it's a blessing, it's one of those, like, you work hard when you have to, and you get to see those rewards right when they're there. And so, right now you don't have kids, but imagine when you have kids and you get to like just spend all the time with them, or you want to chase a passion of yours, like gym, anything that you're passionate into, and that you can plan on that seasonal time that comes to do so. Or like you said, you pick up something else and it's extra income that you didn't plan on, right? Which is a blessing. So it's you can look at it from 2 ways.
No,
right?
It's actually pretty nice. I mean, I guess myself, I've been doing it for a while now, and I mean, I'm a type of person that I'm really active. I mean, I go to the gym when I can and stuff like that. But I love working. I love moving. I can't be at home. So
from an entrepreneurial standpoint, I can understand why it's hard to like not do anything, right? Because when you're so used to just doing things and getting at it, and then you have a time frame where you're not, well, it's really like it's against Mother Nature for entrepreneurs. Yeah. Like it's like the opposite of what we're supposed to do.
You're doing. Yeah.
So I can understand it. What can someone, watching you right now be able to do to be able to get in this type of work, right?
It's funny you say that, because I actually have a guy that has been following in my footsteps. I mean, he barely started. Matt from Backyard Brothers. He is one of my guys that I've been trying to teach him, and he's been growing in this field alongside with me. He does his own thing, but he began last year in October, and he's been pretty much getting into the industry. He bought his equipment. He's been advertising, and actually this year he's been going full solo, and he's been doing really good for himself, and I'm pretty much there to mentor him. He does his own thing. I never ask a penny from this guy, because back then I didn't have nobody to teach me these things.
Right.
So pretty much I was the one doing all the learning. I did all the mistakes and everything. And for somebody that I see that could have so much potential, I've been able to, show him the ropes and everything. And he's been pretty appreciated everything that I've done. And for me, just having that person or anybody else that wants to get into this field, I mean, he's been somebody that I've been able to see, grow and learn from everything that I've been doing myself for these past 8 years, where he's going to probably reach to the point way less than what I've been.
Right. And it's a blessing because it's good that you live like that, because there's a certain group of people that are opposite of that.
Yeah.
That don't want to help. If they don't have something in it for them, that they're like, I suffered, so you have to suffer. Yeah. And it's really nice that you're the opposite of that, because in Spanish we say "que te cuesta," right?
Yeah.
Like which means that, you know, what how does that translate? Like, what does it cost you, right? Yeah. What does it cost you to help them out? Like, you suffered, so others don't have to.
Yeah.
The reason I say that is because if it took you this long to learn it, to be there, and you can give those guidance to other people, and you're changing someone's life, right? Income wise, how they're going to live. I mean, I think that's like the biggest reward you can get. Something that money can't buy.
Yeah.
Right. Which is the self-satisfaction of doing good in the world versus being.
Where's that
like
return for you, honestly?
Like versus being contributing to the good of the world versus being the opposite of being a bad person that just wants to hurt the world, wants to see the world suffer because we suffered or you suffered. So like screw that, you know. Like it's a different mentality to live by, you know. So that's really nice that again, like you're helping those that want to learn your field of work. And I'm going to say this here also is I tell people that whenever they, you know, anybody watching, you know, we always tag our guest, and I'm always there for them if they want to learn more about my field. Would you be willing, if they have a question, if they want to know a little bit more, if they sent you a DM and you helped them out a little bit, would you be willing to maybe
of course
help out with that?
I would be totally down to help anybody out, because I mean, like I said, I never had anybody, and I didn't have no problem, because I don't mind doing everything myself. I'm really hands-on, and I would enjoy helping somebody out, because I mean, there's work, there's money to be made, and there's enough for everybody.
Yeah,
it's
because
not just you.
And again, this goes back to the basis of it's your service, right? Like a lot of people don't want to teach because they're like, oh, they're gonna take this from me. I'm like, if you're good at what you do and the service you reap, no one's taking anything from you. Yeah. I was like, because like you said, there's plenty of homes that need yard cutting, plenty of jobs that you can't take. Like you're saying no to some jobs, right?
Yeah.
So different areas that you probably never even stopped in. So there's so much work for everybody that for me to think, oh no, I can't help you. Why? Because you're gonna take what's mine.
Yeah.
Then there's self-doubt in me. There's more of, I know that I'm not giving my best, or I'm taking advantage of something, that if I teach Johnny's going to come and take all my work. Why? Because Johnny's going to do more, a better of a job than I am, or he's going to charge less than I am because I'm charging too much. Yeah. Right. And so you can tell in my industry, I can weed out the bad snakes, because it's easy to tell when someone's fundamentally like structured and they preach, they care more about the service than they do the paycheck. They talk about the paycheck after.
Yeah.
Versus those that talk about the paycheck prior to doing anything. Honestly, in this industry, you stay away from. What are some important characteristics someone should have in this field of work that you do to be able to be good at it, or things that you feel that you stand by that says, I do good because, you know, let's say you're dedicated, stuff like that, right? In your field of work.
Well, pretty much characteristic in my field, I mean, pretty much just having drive to do stuff. Like I said, I'm not able to stay still. Probably not diagnosed with ADHD, but probably do. But just not being able to stay still, and, you know, going back to how having a single mom and, you know, bringing in that extra income, I was able to help, you know, just having that drive to feel and also like help out one another.
Of like, you know, you're determined, or it's like, you know, you have to have like skill based, like you can be a salesman, you know, something that you feel that sets you apart, or a characteristics of yours that, you know, you don't give up, that you know, you have a hard drive, something like that, that is what's allowed you to succeed, you know?
I mean, with myself, pretty much with myself, I have like a really high work ethic. I mean, when I used to work at my 9 to 5, I used to, do a little bit overachieve and all that. And people will always tell me, do what you're only getting paid for. But as myself, I've always been like that and doing a little bit more than others. That's something I've been as myself. And then also pretty much just in my field, it's labor intensive. If you're not able to, do like long hours, deal with the outdoor weather, sometimes it's super hot,
right,
super cold, and pretty much just being labor intensive and having that work drive, that is something very
critical in
this industry. Yeah.
And I ask you that because it's like, certain fields of work, some people aren't healthy enough to be out there, or they want to be out there but know that it's labor intensive, which means you should have some healthy habits, like go to the gym. You can be on your knees for some time, bend over, strength things to carry things, bags of mulch, everything, right? Because some people, they're like, oh yeah, I could just do it, right? That sounds easy, let me just grab the mower pushes itself. No. Like, you got to have a little bit, or if they want to do this, they have to start building those healthy habits that will help them get the job done easier, because you're healthy and you're staying in shape, which helps you with your work. If you weren't, then it'd be more complicated, right?
No, that's true. I mean, as myself, I wouldn't consider myself the healthiest. I mean, like back then, we weren't in the best physical shapes, even though we were playing soccer.
Johnny, honestly, man, you've lost a lot of weight, because Johnny was a little bit chubbier. Like, he was much. He was a little bit more like me on the overweight side, and I mean, hey, it looks like the job's keeping you healthy. So I mean, and also yourself and your habits. So.
Yeah, I mean,
it's really nice.
That's one thing, especially in this industry. Like, you do have to be physically and mentally, healthy. Mm-hmm. I mean, the mentally part, what I use this industry as pretty much something to help me clear my mind. I mean, some people use coping mechanisms like differently. People draw, people go out for walks, go to the gym. Myself, is just doing what I do. And it's something, just pop in some headphones, listen to podcasts, such as this one. And pretty much, just do what I got to do.
Right.
And on the physical side, you just have to constantly, especially when it's super hot, drink plenty of water, stay hydrated. Bring your own meals. I do a lot of meal prepping. That's one thing that helps a lot, because, we don't work from home. We're going from different houses, different cities. And, there's fast foods and restaurants and gas stations. And that's something that's not really healthy.
No, you think it's quick food, but in the long run, it's gonna hurt you. So, that's really cool. And here's a good question that not a lot of us are willing to answer, and it's good to know, right? Is what daily struggles do you feel that you're facing in your field of work or on your everyday life, like job related, that you have to conquer? You're having to conquer.
One thing, honestly, I would say is just scheduling wise. You could schedule a job that you might think might take like maybe 2 to 3 hours, and sometimes you find some issues that take longer than what expected. More materials needed and stuff like that. No one's perfect. As myself, sometimes I underquote some things and I'm like, hey, I need more material, but sometimes I have to bite the bullet and just just buy the extra material without charging a little extra, because that's all on you. And that's one thing I've been trying to learn. And like I said, with scheduling, I try to wake up as early as I can. Usually I wake up every day from 5 to 6 a.m. Wow. And gotta go, pick up the equipment, pick up the truck, and then get to my first house at least by 7:30 a.m.
Okay. And
I try to keep everybody manageable, from like about a 30 to 20 minute time frame with each client, such as mowing. Landscaping's a little bit different, but just keeping a constant schedule is one thing that I've been trying to work on. And it's been something that has become positive, but still I have sometimes setbacks where your scheduling is a little off, and
weather related too. If it rains or something like that. So would you say that, so a struggle is schedule wise, let's say you were gonna cut and maintenance 12 houses today, right? You're on house 7 and you feel like you're not gonna get to house 12 or 11. What do you do then? Do you have to let them know ahead of time? Are they understanding? Do you push them out for tomorrow? and then you push, I don't know, whoever you had on that list again? Or how do you manage that? Because that's something that's really like they're expecting you to show up at that time, right?
Yeah, and especially if somebody's expecting and paying you for what you do, and you don't show up, or you have to reschedule, which I've done a lot. But one thing that's helped me a lot, I have a lot of great communication skills with my clients, and since I am the owner and operator, they're only dealing with one person and talking to one person, and that's me. And so usually when I have to reschedule them, they're pretty understanding. Thankfully, I try to prioritize, the clients that really do need it that day. But, weather you can't control. No. So a lot of, and mostly all my clients are very understanding of that.
Right. Well, that's a blessing because I say that because a lot of people, they don't know that they don't have enough time till the very end. And then you let the client know very late. And now they may be upset because they're like, oh, they were waiting for you because they wanted to show you this or that. So, staying ahead of your schedule and, it goes a long way when you can, and you're more like contact one-to-one with them in the sense of, hey, I can't make it out. And, you're letting them know why in real time. Yeah. I'm like, or I can maybe, but it's going to be a little bit later and it's going to get dark. And so, again, you can't control sun and your job is you need to see. Yeah. So they'll understand and you fix it and you take care of it. Right. Yeah. So you just, it's an everyday thing. Some of those things that you just have to figure out, which again, this is one of the things that having to figure out problems as you go is an important skill in this and anything.
In the industry. Yeah. Especially being self-employed. I mean, you have to learn as you go and just do what you can. Right. I mean, we're only one person. We're able to do so much. So that's one thing you got to do. Right. And learning. That's one thing that there's multiple other things I keep learning, but that's one of the biggest things is scheduling. Right. Yeah. And
then how much effort or any hurdles that you've had to, overcome to get where you are at now? Like, anything that was keeping you or, you had to really overcome, like maybe income wise to get you into that next gap, something that you just had to, that you overcome or you're trying to overcome today?
I mean, income wise, I mean, that's not really a struggle. Right. Cause I mean, there's work, there is money to be made no matter what you do. Right. It's just you being able to do it. But one thing, like I told you back then, 2 years ago, the truck blowing up, and that was kind of a dark time for myself, where I just didn't even want to continue and do this field anymore.
But feel like maybe you had a little setback. Yeah. And, we always have, and people always have these things where before you blow up or you go to the next level, right? People always see the person at the end that's happy, that's successful. But there's a time where maybe you thought about giving up. Like you said, like during that dark time, you could have easily said, forget this. Yeah. Like, you start seeing all these like problems happen and you could have given up. But you decide to fight through it. And I mean, look where you're at today, So imagine the Johnny back then that gave in, that said, let's give up. You know what I'm saying? Like Johnny today wouldn't be so proud of that Johnny, And so that's one of those things to where that's what makes or breaks you in life and this industry is being able to be down, but knowing that you have to get back up.
Yeah, and eventually everybody does. And I mean, that's something that I've dealt with constantly every time throughout the years and all the years that I've done this, from a truck being blown up, engine failing, mowers breaking down, constant flat tires, machines not working when you need to work weather-wise. And I mean, you just got to keep pushing.
Right. And again, it's everyday things that you'll continue to deal with. So let's just get accustomed to being okay with problems happening, because if we're not okay with that, then again, sooner or later you'll be in this spot again where you're down again, or, it's just a bunch of negative. Don't let negativity, bring you down. Yeah. Look at everything you're doing, and today wasn't a good day, but tomorrow might be different. So taking it day by day. An interesting question that I want to ask you is, marketing, advertisement, right? Because so you've had an influx of income. Do you know why that is? Did you change something differently? Are you, what are you doing to market, or, we say it in business, how are you generating leads? Like, how are you getting more customers, more influx?
So in my industry, I mean, a lot of people do like advertisements. You can do advertisements like on Facebook. I use an app called Nextdoor, which has been something that's been helping me a lot recently. I've done business cards where I left business cards at at different companies, different houses, and also I've done banners and stuff.
Okay.
Pretty much on my vehicles or on my trailers, I do have a little bit of advertisements. My shirts have my name, my company number to call and stuff like that. But honestly, like how we talked, everything has been word of mouth.
Word of mouth referrals, right?
Referrals,
Which comes
yeah.
down to, people getting your name out, which is a blessing. And honestly, having the, let's say, oh, I'm cutting my grass, and I'm like, I'm sick of cutting my grass.
Yeah.
And I see Johnny drive down the road, and it says landscaping with a number. I mean, that goes a long way, because he's well, I don't know landscaper, but he passed by. So let me call and get a quote. And we're not calling to get 10, 15 quotes on cutting grass. So if you feel like the price that you give is fair for what I want to pay, now you just gain me as a customer. Yeah. And now that you're cutting my grass, which is you probably see this a lot, is you'll have the neighbor in the front like, hey, can you cut mine?
Yeah.
And then the other one, can you cut mine after you're done? And, if you have a schedule, okay, yes, I can't today because I have to go here. But that's how you generate, leads, right? Yeah. The more you work, the more you get.
Yeah, and that's pretty much how it was. I mean, this year alone, I have not done any single advertisement. Everything has been, like I said, my phone has been calling and blowing from probably the advertisements on my vehicles, my phone number, the back of my company shirts, and pretty much just from Nextdoor. I just have one single page that just advertises what I do, what's my name, and everybody's just been calling me from there.
That's awesome, man. Well, then it's a good thing that you're not having to have a huge advertisement, fee or whatever, which, that's a blessing. And, we have two more questions that I always like to end out the podcast, which is, one is, do you see yourself doing this for a long time or forever, or do you have something else you hope to work on or working towards that may be unrelated towards your industry?
Honestly, I do see myself doing this long term. Maybe like we talked before, not actually physically in the field, but behind the scenes as, creating and gaining leads for my employees. This is something I do want to do for the long term. I mean, this is something that I didn't need no college degree, which thankfully didn't need a couple certifications, but making as much as somebody that went to college is something that's very crazy.
Making more than people that have gone to college, man. Like, and I'm just gonna bash on this industry a little bit, which is good because they help us out, but I think they're underpaid. It's people who go study like to be a teacher. Yeah. And they go for 4 years and they get paid. I've heard sometimes some teachers get paid below 40 and even 50 or 60. And I'm like, I mean, they're teaching your kids the next generation, and that's all they get paid. I was like, and they had to go get in debt to do that, for 4 years, 6 years, trying to get masters. So for somebody who didn't go to college and is making X amount of what someone who does go to college, sometimes maybe do you think that, the college system is a scam? It's a one-way business. It's for the institution, right? Because in today's world, a lot of people aren't even requiring a college degree because it doesn't matter. They're like, there's no point of having a college degree because they're like, and I hear this question when I was starting out is, I don't care if you're a 4.0 student. What is that going to do for me? What is that going to do in my company? Nothing. They want experience. They want, how are you going to make them more money? They don't care about the degree. The degree was so you can maybe sit down at the table. But after that, I'm like, C's, they say D's make degrees. I'm like, I think there's just this part of this world that focuses too much on education of being perfect. Yeah. And in the workforce, it's counterintuitive. They don't care if you're not the smartest, but if you're the hardest worker, that's who gets rewarded the most.
That's true. Yeah.
So, and then our last question is something that, I always like to give a little bit more towards the audiences. What do you hope, the audience learns from your story? Something, give them a piece of advice, personal and financially wise.
From the personal aspect, like I said, pretty much being in that, I do have the Hispanic culture background, and knowing Hispanics, we have a really high work drive, and thankfully, I have that, and I just love constantly working. And personally for myself, just being able to work as hard that I do now rewards me a lot. And shit was business wise again.
Well, that's personal. And then one financial advice, like it's more of a, something that has worked for you. Financial advice, save a lot. Something that you preach, or like you said, this is based on the same thing. Work a lot. Make money. Don't spend your money. Something more financial.
Pretty much on the financial aspect, like I said, I take 3 to 4 months off in the winter, and that's just from constantly saving a little bit here and there after each job. Right. I mean, financially, just constantly saving. Right. That's one thing, because you never know. Like, you could, like, I have a truck breakdown. I gotta go buy a truck. Have those extra funds just to take care of that. Right. And not, I've had people where I've had to ask for help, and there's nothing wrong with that. Mm-hmm. I've had people help me, guide me some ways, and try to get to where I'm at now. And that's one thing financially, is just constantly save and save and save. Save and invest. Right. Don't just save your money in a bank. No. It's not going to do nothing there. I'll tell you that. That's one thing I do want to get into is, the real estate and investment. I don't know, whatever's out there, try to invest my money somewhere to help bring extra income. And that's something I want to do financially.
But in core value is saving, not spending on things that aren't write-offs or not needed, right? Which is, again, because you have this time where you don't work as much, because not because you don't want to, it's because the season is not as high. So knowing this, that you're saving for a stormy day, in the sense of you'll be fine during those 3 or 4 months because you saved when you shouldn't have, right? And they say shouldn't have because some people make the flux of money and I don't know where their monthly expenses went up that much more. And I'm like, how? I mean, live humbly, save, and you'll be just fine.
Yeah. And I mean, in my field, like, I do make almost the 6-figure, or I do and want to make the 6-figure aspect of income. Even though you see those numbers, you're not going to be, pulling up in a brand new car each year. You're not going to have the hugest house. Because there's still a lot of expenses in this field. I mean, you have to pay insurances. You got to pay for a lot of employments, material-wise. I mean, materials cost thousands and thousands of dollars. Right. And one thing, you're spending thousands on gas. That's one thing I use a lot. And gas fluctuates every single day. And so you just pretty much have to know how to save that money whenever those times come.
Oh, awesome, Johnny. Well, thank you for taking the time to, stop by today and educate me and the audience, in this industry. And it's been a pleasure having you on the podcast. And again, I've always told people, and I'll repeat it again, is this is a time capsule for me, for you to, potentially have you, if you'd like to come back on, in a year or two and see, what's changed with Johnny's business, right? In 2 to 3 years, hopefully, we're doing more, or again, it could be the same thing, but just catching up. There's plenty of things we can always talk about, but it's been a pleasure having you on the podcast today. Thank you for taking the time to help us out. Always helping. We do this for the audience, like, just remember that there's somebody on the other side of this lens that we could be changing their lives.
No, for sure.
I appreciate that.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, guys, well, you have a good rest of your day, and take care.